To what extent does a teacher's approach affect their students? This question has often been evaluated solely in terms of academics, but in reality, teachers have a much broader impact than many realize. A teacher's approach can have tremendous implications on their students' interests, academic growth, and emotional well-being. Educators should be mindful of the emotional treatment, environment, and pedagogical practices in their classrooms, as all aspects of their approach can have major impacts on students' learning and well-being. Emotional health and self-esteem are key to success, and teachers have the ability to build their students up or tear them down. Similarly, academic engagement, interests, and achievements can be directly tied back to one's teachers. Of course, academic success can heavily be dependent on teachers. An article titled "The Impact of Teachers: Commenting Strategies on Children's Vocabulary Growth" reflects this. Although it does not determine the exact number of comments needed to optimize growth, the results of the study clearly show that gains in receptive vocabulary correlate with increased medium-level comments made by their teachers. Thus, a teacher's educational approach can play a huge role in how much their students are able to learn. This study is an example of how the success of teaching methods can be quantified, and this is something that can be very helpful for educators. Engagement and motivation is another part of their students' lives that teachers are able to impact. An article titled "What Would Happen If We Treated Students as Those with Opinions That Matter? The Benefits to Principals and Teachers of Supporting Youth Engagement in School" talks about how teaching students the value of sharing their perspective causes engagement and collaboration to increase. Clearly, the emotional handling of students influences how they see the world and their education. Teachers should be partners with their students, not dictators who lack compassion. When students are given the opportunity to give feedback, they can feel heard. Their ideas can actually be implemented, shaping their education to be effective and enjoyable. Another telling article titled "The Students' Perceptions on English Teachers' Teaching Style and How It Affects Learning Motivation" uses data from Indonesian students who were interviewed about their English teachers. The students go into detail about how they found they learned best, referencing things such as when teachers use nicknames, give clear explanations and instructions, use simple vocabulary, demonstrate pronunciations, and give their students tasks. This data is valuable as it gives teachers a jumping-off point for how to best teach English to non-native speakers. It also gives a wider idea of how to increase students' motivation to learn through certain strategic methods. The emotional treatment of students impacts both their self-esteem and academics. The Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes experiment clearly reflects this. In this experiment, Jane Elliott told her students that brown-eyed people were better than blue-eyed people. Although the exercise had originally been done solely to teach their students about racial discrimination, it revealed a lot more about the impact of educators and their decisions. A blue-eyed girl who was made to feel lesser began to have trouble completing her math work, and the brown-eyed kids gained confidence. These results make it obvious that teachers hold power over their students emotionally, which can heavily impact them in multiple ways. An article titled "The Impact of Teachers and Their Science Teaching on Students' Science Interests: A 4-Year Study" presents data on how teachers directly impact the interests of their students. Specifically, it follows the scientific interests of 14 Australian students over 4 school years. It offers the conclusion that the pedagogical practices of teachers can correlate directly with the students' scientific interests being developed, maintained, and diminished over time. Teachers have the ability to inspire their students, and it can be fairly simple to do that. Clearly, a teacher's approach can have many impacts, both positive and negative, on the many aspects of their students' lives. Still, it is not entirely clear how teachers can optimize their impact without losing authenticity. More studies need to be done to provide teachers with the data that they need to discover the best way for them to shape their students, who they have been entrusted with.